Giggle Gorilla Studios coming at you live from the trees of Hollywood, and we got Everest back here. I'm Braden as always, but Everest, you're back.
Woo! I am back. Good to be back. Always love to show up in the trees. These Hollywood trees feel a little bit manufactured, a little bit studio mandated today, but we're making it work regardless. Happy to be here. What's up?
Not much, man. What you been doing lately?
I just finished my freshman year of college like a week ago, so I'm back home now in Michigan and just vibing. I got a couple weeks before I gotta like actually start working right now, so I'm just catching up with friends and family and everything, and watching epic movies like ones we're gonna talk about today.
Like, yeah. I've also watched these epic movies recently. Obviously, I watched one yesterday. I watched the other one last week, so I might be a little fuzzy on that. I do have like a little spoiler-free review of The Fall Guy already on my channel, so. Anyone that watched
Oh,
that,
word.
we appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to get better about that, like just reviewing movies because I see so many in theaters now. I'm like, man, I should really just like review some of these outside. And like, I don't know. I know people like the DC content, but I like changing it up every now and then. Like I don't want to just constantly be making DC stuff, so like I don't want that to get old because I do enjoy doing it.
Yeah, exactly. If you switch it up, then you can come back to the DC stuff and it still feels fresh. Hey, I'm taking at least partial credit for getting Braden on AMC A list, which is how he's been watching so many movies in theaters. So dubs for me. But it's
Probably
honestly
is
been a
mainly
pretty
you that
decent year for
got me.
movies so far.
I know, like this year
Yeah.
wasn't really hyped up to be like that great, but like when I was just looking at the movies that were coming out, I'm like, dude, I want to see a lot of these. Like, why has this year not been hyped up like the past couple have? I feel like it's gonna be a
Yeah,
decent
dude.
year.
And me too. Considering this month as well, we've got Apes coming out. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes comes out like literally today, I
Yeah, I'll
think.
be seeing
Or
that tonight.
yeah, bro. I'll
I'm
probably see it this
excited for it.
weekend.
Yeah, we talked about the last
Super
trilogy
pumped.
on my
I've
other
heard.
show. That's so random. We talked about Rise, Dawn, and War, which my favorite trilogy of all time. You should go check those episodes out if you haven't.
Look at him. Look at him. Look at him plug. But honestly, that you should check it out because that trilogy is awesome. I rewatched Dawn with my family like last weekend. I think so good. Like needs to be talked about as one of the best movies. Period of the 2010s. Not even like genre specific films. Um, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is great. I'll probably watch War with like my mom or my parents soon because I don't think they'd seen either of them before. I think my dad had watched Rise like when it came out or something, but so good. And we've got Furiosa coming out later this month. Gwen Powell's The Hitman is releasing on streaming, I think. So I don't know, man.
Speaking of
Low
Gwen
key been a
Powell,
banger of a year, and we're only
Gwen Powell is in
speaking
Twisters,
of
and
Gwen Powell.
you just dropped this bombshell on us last night that you were excited for that movie.
Dude, I'm excited for Twisters. It looks because I keep seeing the trailer in the theater, and maybe I'm just like a sucker for Gwen Powell and like I don't know. It just gives me that vibe of like a '90s, 2000s thriller kind of movie. I haven't seen the original Twister, so I should probably watch that, and maybe I won't like it, and then my excitement will subside. But it just looks fun. I like Gwen Powell. It's from the director of Minari, which was nominated for Best Picture like 3 years ago. And I like that movie a lot. And it was also announced that it was completely shot on film, which does not happen a lot these days. So I don't know. Could be interesting. Just another movie to look out for this summer.
Yeah, I'm not really active on like social media, so before you said that, I just like thought Twister and Twisters, upcoming Twisters, was like such a generational thing. I'm like, I feel like no one that didn't grow up with the original Twister is excited for this film, but you proved that theory completely wrong. Because I'm like, I don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't get it because maybe it's because I grew up around tornadoes. I don't know. I'm not fascinated by tornadoes or anything. I'm like, yeah, it's something that happens. Like, I think you're stupid for chasing them.
yeah, I don't know if I'm fascinated by tornadoes, but I do think the concept of like these people that dedicate their lives to chasing them is interesting. And also from the trailers, it looks like they're going for kind of a like new science like technology way of dealing with tornadoes versus the like old school Wrangler technique, and they're kind of like butting heads like which is better, the like super like tech heavy side or just like going after it like the old way. which I think is probably a good idea for a 30-year legacy sequel. So I don't know. It's on my radar. I'm not like incredibly pumped for it, but every time I see the trailer, I'm like, I'll probably go see it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll see it in theaters, but I'll definitely probably watch the original Twister and Twisters at least by the end of the year because I'm sure if we have the time, which hopefully we will because you'll be on Christmas break and you won't be too busy with school. But hopefully we'll do what we did at the beginning of this year and look back on 2024, the beginning of 2025, and do our best of the year and everything.
Yeah,
So
man, that was fun.
yeah,
We should
yeah.
definitely.
So I'm for sure gonna at least try to get it in by the end of the year for that reason. But yeah, I want to get
Yeah,
as many
and
movies in this
hopefully,
year as I can, but I'm obviously not going to go to the theater for every single one.
but I would say, starting off like we talked about, we're only in May, and there's been quite a few like good to even great movies that have come out, hoping for good things from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I don't know, it's shaping up to be a pretty good year, I think.
Yeah, I'm hoping Kingdom is good, but like I'm not. I don't have extremely high expectations for that because that last trilogy was just I don't see it being better than that trilogy. If it's even on level with
Yeah,
it,
me either.
I'm gonna be impressed if it's even on that level.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
that
hey,
makes sense. But
some news dropped today before we get into these movies. Cape Crusader,
oh,
we finally
oh,
got a release date.
yay!
It's about
I forgot
time.
about that already, even though we talked about it 5 minutes ago. That's so hype.
It's about time. Yeah, I don't know. Darren sent it to us like, "Yo, here's this." And he sent it to me before he sent it to you because I'm literally always like, "Is this show even still happening? Like, when is the show coming out? Does it
Bro,
have a
I
release
was
date
pissed.
yet?"
I was like, Darren, I love Batman too. I'm excited for this show too. Why didn't you tag me? Like, what the heck? But no, that it's gonna be exciting. It comes out what, August? Like,
First, I think it's
is it the
August
start
1st,
of
isn't it?
August or
It's literally
yeah,
the first day of August,
beginning
right?
of August? That's how. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't remember if it was like the first or late in the month, but that'll be a good show at the end of summer for us.
Yeah, damn you, Amazon. I was planning on canceling my Prime subscription after The Boys, but you're making me keep it until Cape Crusader freaking ends
Dude,
now.
they know how to keep them. They know how to keep them on the leash.
Man, yeah, just
So
throw a Batman show at me. That'll always keep me on the leash.
Prime adding ads unless you go up to like the next level of subscription is so stupid.
Oh
Like,
yeah, it's
makes me
stupid.
so upset.
I only pay for Prime for the
We're
free shipping to begin with, so I'm not about to pay for an ad-free version. Screw y'all.
Yeah, nah,
I don't watch it enough for that. Like I still need to watch
yeah,
Invincible.
but
I've had Prime all these months and Invincible like finished a month or two ago and I still haven't watched that show.
I haven't watched
Even
Invincible either.
yeah,
I think
even
I
though I really enjoyed season 1.
finished.
I'm just not like I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
finished the first season. It's good. It's not like I don't love it as much as everyone else seems to, because everyone always talks about it. But I thought it was good.
I thought it was good. I didn't love it as much as everyone else either because everyone was like, I don't know, everyone was acting like it was such a revolutionary show. I'm like, it was really good, but like, I don't see
Yeah,
what was like that special about it.
I'm kind of in the same boat, but I'm glad obviously people are enjoying it. I don't really know what the consensus is on like season two and everything, but um maybe I'll check it out at some point. I do still have Prime, and we'll be keeping it for the Batman show now, which will be very exciting. It's been a long time since we've had like a legitimate animated Batman show.
Yeah, it's been, oh my lord, what the last one was? I guess the last one was Beware the Batman, but that only went for a season, and the last one before that was Brave and the Bold, which is insane.
Brave and the Bold. That's over 10 years ago now.
Yeah, Brave and the Bold is it's almost 20 years ago at this point. It started in 2008.
Yeah,
Oh,
dude, it's
man,
crazy.
I'm starting to feel old. Because I remember the Batman and Brave and the Bold were like the first Batman shows airing when I was a kid that I was watching, and I'm like, I didn't watch a lot of Brave and the Bold growing up, actually. I don't know why. And funnily enough, I didn't get into that show until I was older. I was like, I don't know, I guess as a kid, I
Yeah.
just looked at it like, oh, this is just I looked at it as like I don't know, I feel like once you're a kid, preteen, entering the teens, you kind of lose appreciation for some of that stuff and you just look at it as silly, even though it's paying like so much respect to the past and like obviously Brave and the Bold is paying respect to both Batman 66 and like the Silver Age of comics, which I adore that about the show now. I'm like, and it's not done in a silly way either.
Yeah. I watched Brave and the Bold all the time growing up. Like I was just in that right age when it was still on TV, so I would watch it on Cartoon Network like all the time. I loved it. And I've gone back and rewatched it a bunch. I remember when you were finally going through and watching it all, and you were like, "This show's sick," and I was like, "I know, it's really good," and it
Yeah.
is that like perfect balance of leaning into a little bit of the more like silly's not even the right word, but just like more comic booky fun side of Batman that we see in 66 and like Silver Age Batman comics, while still having serious moments and treating all of its characters with respect, which I always can't believe how well they blended that.
Yeah, like it's a Starro crossover episode. Spoilers for Batman the Brave and the Bold if you don't want to be spoiled on that show, which if you've never seen it, you should just go watch it because it's incredible. But when they killed off Wildebeest, I was so shocked. I was like, "Oh, they have death in this show. Oh my God, it's serious."
Yeah, crazy.
And they made me care
But
about a
no, I love
character
that
like
show.
Wildebeest. I'm like, I
Mhm.
only knew him from like the episode he appeared in Justice League Unlimited, and he didn't get much to do in that. They made me care about that character so much. I'm like, this is just such good writing all throughout.
Yeah, I love it. That show was also like the first show that well, I guess I watched Justice League Unlimited probably around the same time, but that was one of the first shows that made me love Green Arrow, the superhero, because I was watching that like before I would have watched Arrow or anything like that, and probably either around the same time or even before I got super into Justice League Unlimited, and I always thought that character was awesome, and he's still like one of my favorite superheroes today.
Yeah, Green Arrow's awesome. He's up there for me. Probably don't like him as much as you or Connor do, but I do like him.
Connor loves that guy. Oh my god. Connor is Green Arrow's number one fan.
Yeah, literally. Like the only hero that even compares to Green Arrow, as far as I know, from him is Superman. Like Superman and Green Arrow are his guys.
Yep. Well,
But
we
speaking of
spent like
guys,
20 minutes talking about things that aren't the fall guy or the nice guy. Dude, so many guys. We
so
just
many
got a lot of
guys.
guys on the
There's so
so
many
many
movies.
guys.
There's so many movies that have the word guy. Well, I mean, I can only think of these two and the Free Guy right now, or Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, but I'm
Free
sure there's
guy,
plenty of
Ryan
more.
Reynolds. So there's got to be a bunch of guys. I mean, the other guys, that's probably a movie. I think that's a
I
movie.
think that is a movie. Oh yeah, no, the other guys. That
Yeah.
was the Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg comedy. I'm pretty sure, and Michael Keaton's in it as like the
Right.
head of
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
security department. Yeah,
Yep. Look at us, just connecting the guys.
yeah. I think what they're the other guys because at the beginning of that movie, The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson are like the main like police squad, and they just jump off a building and kill
Hmm.
themselves. And that's where Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell come in.
Bro,
Uh,
it's giving the Hudsucker proxy when
yeah.
when the big boss just leaps out the window at the start of the movie.
Oh, dude, that movie is awesome.
That movie's crazy. I want to rewatch that movie.
Oh, well, speaking of jumping off of things, the Fall Guy, Ryan Reynolds, or Ryan,
Dude,
Jesus, I got
he
Ryan Reynolds in my mind now. Ryan
oh my
Gosling.
god, it's over for Braden.
It's over. Man, I just mistake the two Ryans, and that's something you can never do as a movie fan.
Yeah, that's sacred. That's sacred, bro. You crossed the Ryan pack. But no, he jumps off of a lot of things in this movie.
Because he's a stuntman, which I love that
Yeah.
there's finally a movie about stuntmen, which I know this originated from a TV show, but like we've been saying it for
Hmm.
years. Like stunt workers in Hollywood get no respect, and I hate it.
It's true.
It's like they put
I hate
in
it
as
too. I
much
love
work as everyone else, if not more, and they don't get any of the credit.
Yeah, it sucks, and that's like the main thing that stuck out to this movie, for me as well. Besides just like the lead performances and how entertaining it was it's so cool to get a movie that's like for stunt people and kind of an ode to stunt people, which is what Ryan Gosling and the director kind of describe it as. And at least for me, they played a quip before the movie started. I don't know if they did that at your theater,
Yeah, I saw
but yeah,
it.
that's
When Ryan
awesome.
Gosling was like
That'd be
talking
fun.
about, yeah, if you got to send a text, just kind of hide your phone. I'm like, I
Yeah,
like how
he's
he's
like,
not
hey, if you
even.
get an important call, just kind of hide it in your jacket like that, and he's so funny.
I love him. Yeah, he's making me
He's
laugh
like,
even before the movie started.
Me too. And Ryan Gosling's like one of those actors that I've always known of and I've always watched and stuff and liked him. But over the past like couple years, he's just grown into like one of my favorite actors. He's incredible in, The Nice Guys, which we'll talk about later because we kind of thought it fit in with this theme and the movies are similar in ways. But The Nice Guys he's great in. He just got an Academy Award nomination for Barbie. Now this movie, I think he's so much fun, but also has the dramatic chops when he needs them. So he's a really special performer.
Yeah, just very entertaining all the time, which is first and foremost the most important part of being an actor, probably. Like movies are supposed to be entertaining. That's what you want them to be first and foremost.
Yeah. And I would say that first and foremost, The Fall Guy is a really entertaining movie. I mean, it's not exactly like reinventing anything or doing anything that we've never seen before besides showcasing and spotlighting stuntmen, which is awesome. But it plays with a lot of like different like forms and kind of like it breaks the fourth wall a little bit at times and it's just has a very energetic style that I think works for it. It's got a lot of action, which isn't none of it's like the best stuff you've ever seen, but it all works, and it's just tied together by two great lead performances from Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, who's also in this movie. Uh, so I guess just my first overall take on it was a fun time at the movie theater.
Yeah, for sure. And I just was drawing a lot of parallels between this and The Nice Guys, which we'll be talking about during the movie. And like I think I described it to you after I saw it. I'm like, this and The Nice Guys would make such a great double feature, which is a big part of why we're talking about both of them. First of all, they're both
Yeah.
action comedies. Second of all, they both feature Ryan
Hmm.
Gosling. Third of all, The Fall Guy is more a romance action comedy, and The Nice Guys is a bromance action comedy, so they just complement each other really well.
Hmm. I agree with that, and it's like you don't get too much of one thing because there's just enough difference. Like I would say, the Nice Guys is also a little bit more like feels old timey, whereas the Fall Guy it feels like very modern, even with their setting. Like the Nice Guys takes place in I think the 70s or 80s,
I want to say
somewhere
it's the
around there.
70s because there was a trailer that was like the 70s retro version of that movie. So I assume it
Yeah,
takes place in the
that probably
70s.
probably
And
makes
and the
sense. So
70s is
just
like when the I want to say the 70s is like kind of when the porn industry started blowing up, so it all kind of makes sense for that movie.
Yeah, I think the 70s was kind of when that started blowing up because I know Boogie Nights also takes place in the 70s and that film revolves heavily around the porn industry. So that
Still need
sounds
to watch
right.
that
But I
movie.
love dude, Boogie Nights is so good. Watch it.
I need
I
to.
love Boogie Nights. I think you'll like it. But yeah, back to the Fall Guy. It does take place in the modern day. It does feel sort of similar to a lot of these like big fun like Free Guy and it like another guy movie have I think some similarities in their tone, but this one just comes off as like it feels a bit more authentic and it's just more fun to watch. I think like it's a more intriguing story. I love how it plays with like there's a fake movie star in it, but he's real within the world, and then Ryan Gosling, who's like the star of this movie, is the stunt man and doesn't get any of the credit. So yeah, I don't know. Fall Guy, it's just a really fun time. I don't know if we want to get into plot specific stuff or not, but definitely recommend it.
Oh, we can in a moment if you want to. Or yeah, I'll timestamp
Yeah.
everything so for anyone that hasn't seen The Fall Guy and doesn't want it spoiled, they can just skip ahead to The Nice Guys or whatever. But The Fall Guy, I pretty much agree with everything you said. It was great. I thought all the action was pretty good, which it's David Leitch. It'd be surprising if the
Yeah.
action wasn't good because he's done
Director
some
Bullet
great action
Train,
movies. Yeah, Bullet Train,
Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2. He did Atomic Blonde,
Yeah.
which I have not seen. I really want to see that sometime though. Hobbs and Shaw, which I think Hobbs and Shaw is one of the most entertaining Fast and Furious movies ever made.
I never
Especially the
watched Hobbs
modern
and Shaw,
ones.
but
I think it's better than like
yeah,
any I want to say it's better than any of the modern Fast and Furious movies. Besides Fast 5. Fast 5 is my favorite Fast and Furious movie, but I'd say Fast 5, the
Fast
original
Five is
Fast
gas. Yeah.
the original Fast and Furious, then Hobbs and Shaw. Those are like my three favorite in the franchise. And then after
Yeah,
that,
I'll have
like
to.
I don't know, every movie. I mean, I guess Hobbs and Shaw kind of does feel like more of the same, but I feel like every movie in that franchise kind of feels like that at this point. But The Rock and like Jason Statham, just their natural charisma, like that
Yeah,
put together with each other is so entertaining to watch.
yeah, and I think that's like kind of a staple in David Leitch films, especially like these action centric things, are finding these really great dynamic between two characters who have like really good chemistry. Like in Bullet Train, it's like Lemon and Tangerine. They kind of work off each other so well. That's Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's also in this movie. Um, in The Fall Guy, I think Gosling and Blunt play off each other really well, and there's different
Yeah.
character
So
dynamics that are fun too.
Ryan Gosling being the stunt double to Aaron Taylor Johnson was so brilliant because before this movie, I never realized how much those two guys could actually look alike. I'm like, whoa.
They,
Like they have different facial structures, but aside from that, they looked so similar. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what is going
Aaron Taylor
on here?
Johnson just looks a little bit younger, but it was brilliant casting. Like once you see them where they dress them up with the same costuming and hair and everything, they look very similar.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone gave great performances in this. Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt primarily, but anytime Aaron Taylor Johnson was on screen, I was thoroughly entertained. I think his star is only on the rise, and I love that for him because he's got so much talent.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson's awesome. I've loved seeing him pop up in more and more stuff. Excited to see where his career goes. Obviously, Craven, which just continues to get delayed. So,
I'm so
will we
scared
ever
for that
actually see
movie.
that movie? Who knows?
I want it to be
I'm
good
scared
because
too.
Aaron Taylor Johnson's so awesome, but I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's the same thing with every Sony movie. I'm like, how can you have a full movie about this without Spider-Man? Like, these characters kind of need Spider-Man to complement them. Even Venom, like Venom,
Yeah,
I'm like, Venom, where's Spider-Man, dude?
yeah,
Like, I love
I
Venom,
agree
but
with
just on his
that. It,
own, he's not as interesting. Like, that's why I'm glad Joker 2 is
it,
at least going to have Harley, because Joker's going to have someone there to complement him. It's not just going to be the Joker
yeah,
again.
yeah. I think that's needed, especially when I mean you're not exactly reinventing the characters. You just kind of are having them on their own. So I haven't been a big fan of much of the Sony stuff at all. I think Venom 2 is actually really fun,
Oh yeah, it's
but
fun. It's
that's
so
kind of
fun.
my
Anyone that
favorite
says it's
of
not
them,
a
and
good
it's
movie, I will not disagree with. So I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's fun, but I'm not gonna say it's the best
yeah.
movie ever or anything.
Yeah, it's not great, but it is a fun time, at least in my opinion. But yeah, if we can get into the Fall Guy a little bit more. I know we both really want to talk Nice Guys too, but um yeah, it follows Ryan Gosling, who's a stunt guy, and he gets injured severely at the start of the movie, and kind of goes into hiding and isolation before being brought back because he thinks that Emily Blunt, who he had a massive crush on, is directing her first movie and wants him back as the stunt guy. And then once he gets back there, he realizes that there's a lot of like studio interference and shady stuff going on. He ends up in this like wild action goose chase for Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. A lot of corruption, a lot of like twists and turns. None of it's like that hard to follow or anything. It's fairly standard, but I think it works for the movie, and the core of it is definitely Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's characters and their relationship and how that develops throughout the movie. And I've never been a huge romance guy, but when it's coupled with like comedy or action and stuff like that, I think it can work. And I think the relationship here is definitely one of the strongest parts of the movie.
Yeah, it really worked for me, and I feel like a lot of this movie just worked for me because the humor sensibilities were really catered to my sensibilities. Like a lot of it didn't really feel like humor to be humor. Like a lot of it just felt like natural humor, which is what I always enjoy.
Yeah,
And I did not
I,
expect
I,
like the story to get as personal as it did with like Ryan Gosling and what you find out later with Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Obviously,
mm,
I'm like, oh, okay, this is a swerve I was not expecting at all.
yeah, it has to get real and actually delve into character development, which I really like. I mean, the stuff with like Ryan Gosling's character talking about how he felt after his accident, which spoiler alert doesn't to not actually be an accident, um, and just how that affected him mentally. thought a lot of that was really well done, and it makes for a compelling triumph in the end, which this movie definitely has. And Emily Blunt's character felt uh very real, very cool. Like she had her own stuff going on too, and I agree with you about the humor. Most of it feels very natural and just like how the people in this world would interact with each other. I think there were sometimes it went for, low hanging fruit or just like pretty generic Hollywood blockbuster humor, but there's also a lot of jokes in here that are clever, really stand out, and it just gives Ryan Gosling the opportunity to be the great comedic actor that he is. There's a lot of good physical comedy in here that they let him do. Um, One I was going to mention to you before the show that I love is when Emily Blunt's character, the director, is talking with one of the like evil producers after they find everything out, and Ryan Gosling's in a costume and is like poking out to make sure Emily Blunt knows that what the producer's telling her is like a lie. He's like flipping her off behind her. So funny.
Yeah, that producer is played by what was the actress's name? I had never.
Hannah Waddingham, who's in Ted
Yes,
Lasso.
I have not seen her in anything before this, but she was really good.
She's a
She
great
like,
actress. She's
yeah,
awesome in Ted Lasso.
I was impressed
Um,
with how much she held her own with like Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, and Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm like, wow, I don't even know this lady, but she's good in every single scene she's in, and she's so good at playing that
yeah.
character you love to hate in this movie. Because she's it turns out she's the evil mastermind behind everything. Like Aaron Taylor Johnson's almost her pawn kinda. Like Aaron Taylor Johnson's
Mm-hmm.
obviously her treasure. Like she has to keep him protected,
Yeah.
otherwise her job's endangered. But yeah, she's the mastermind behind
Mm-hmm.
everything, which wasn't like super shocking once it's revealed, because I feel like that's such a trope nowadays. Like, oh, the person you
Yeah.
thought was actually in control of this, it turns out it's the person that was behind them that's in control of everything. I'm like, yeah, okay. That's probably like the weakest aspect of the
Yeah.
movie, but she was really good at playing that character still. And I don't know
Yeah.
why, but
I
I
agree.
found when Ryan Gosling's character was high off of whatever drugs he did, and he's like,
Oh
man,
yeah,
when does this stop? And he's like,
unicorn.
when you stop seeing the unicorns, and he just looks over and sees a unicorn, and then he goes to the hotel, and when he's
That
checking
was
in,
funny.
it just pans over, and you see a unicorn.
Yeah, that was a funny bit. I'm happy with like how committed they stayed to it too. Like when he's in the hotel room, he's still the unicorn's there with him. Um, yeah, that's probably one of its best comedic moments. Hannah Waddingham is a really great actress. I'm excited to see her do more. She kind of blew up because of Ted Lasso, and she does play in that show at the beginning kind of an evil mastermind type character too, who ends up having a change of heart and kind of comes over to the good side. But she can play a villain for sure, and I think she's really good in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Just that with how good she played the villain there, and I guess how good you're saying she played the villain in Ted Lasso, I wouldn't be surprised if she shows up in one of the cinematic universes sooner or later.
Yeah, me
Either
neither.
Marvel or
That'll
DC,
probably
who knows what side of things. But hey, James Gunn, if you can get her,
probably
I'd get her, buddy. I think she'd be so great
no.
as like a Wonder Woman villain or something. Like she could fit in so well there.
That'd be awesome. More roles for
Or
Hannah
oh, you know
Waddingham.
who I could actually
Uh,
see? Wait, has Mercy Graves been cast yet? Because I could so see her as a Mercy Graves.
I don't think so. I don't know, but that would be a really good role for her. Yeah, that's a good James Gunn, please.
No, I think that'd
But
be great.
yeah, I don't have a ton to say about this movie. I do think like at the end of the day, it's a little bit standard. Like there's nothing that's gonna make me uh come back to it time and time again. But to see it in the theater, maybe I'll probably rewatch it sometime down the road. Um, I think at the end of the day, it's just a really fun movie, and it doesn't have to be much more than that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna rewatch it once it comes home again, but I don't know if I'll be watching it as much as I do this next movie we're about to talk about, but
Yeah,
it's still pretty good. It's
which
one of the funnier movies I've seen, especially recently, so I give it credit for that.
oh yeah. For sure. It's funny. It's well acted. It focuses on stuntmen, which is cool and something we don't get to see a lot. And it's pretty clever when it really tries. So yeah, for me, definitely I'd recommend it. Um, I don't have that much more to say if we want to move into Nice Guys or you want to wrap up thoughts, but Good
The
movie.
only thing I'll add is like when Aaron Taylor Johnson is revealing the whole ploy to Ryan Gosling's character, and he's like telling him what they got the facial scans for and stuff. I'm like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now
Hmm.
because I'm like, why are you taking these facial scans of a stunt double? Because it's not like
Yeah.
you're not gonna promote the stunt double, you're gonna promote the actor when you're promoting the movie.
Hmm.
And then it all
Yeah.
makes sense
It's a
when
good.
later on he's like, yeah, they killed the other stunt double that took off over for Ryan Gosling, and Aaron Taylor Johnson's like, we're gonna take your face, we're gonna put it on mine so I never get framed. So that puts Ryan Gosling in this situation where him and Emily Blunt have to get Aaron Taylor Johnson's character to verbally confess to his crime so Ryan Gosling is in the clear. So it kind of like I liked
Yeah.
it, but the thing I didn't like about it is how it extended the movie. I'm like, it wasn't needed. Like, it just felt like you wanted to extend this
Mm,
movie to 2 hours.
yeah. That was one thing I felt was even though it's not like a long movie, it's a movie that feels longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
I think this would have been perfect as a 1 hour and 45 minute film. And it is a little bit like just over 2 hours, right around 2 hours. I don't know the exact runtime, but feels a little bit longer than it needs to be. One other thing I forgot though is I do like the incorporation of music in this movie, particularly the song "I Was Made for Loving You," which
Oh,
they kind of integrate
that
into the
song got
score.
stuck in my head after I saw the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely got stuck in mine too, and they play it a lot, but they switch it up and they integrate it into the score. It'll be played at a different speed or whatever it is. I thought it was a unique use of music that worked well for the film.
Yeah, I know there was a cover made for this movie by, I don't remember who made the cover, but obviously the original is by Kiss. And I want to say they played both versions
Yeah,
in the movie as well. So they incorporated in the score and they played two different versions of the song also. So like it's playing constantly throughout, but it's never just the exact same version playing, which I respected.
yeah, exactly. I respect that too, and yeah, I just respect the movie as a whole. But we definitely want to get to maybe what this movie was kind of trying to be a spiritual successor to, at least for like Ryan Gosling and his career. The Nice Guys, directed by Shane Black, which this movie is awesome.
Yeah, I think I can't think of a Shane Black movie I've seen that I like more. I honestly can't even think of another Shane Black movie I've seen other than Iron Man 3, and I like this way more than Iron Man 3. But probably my favorite Shane Black movie, probably my favorite Ryan Gosling movie, maybe even my favorite Russell Crowe movie, even though Russell Crowe's been in some great stuff throughout his career. I love this movie so much.
Yeah,
After
Shane Black.
rewatching it for like the fifth time, I think this might take the place of my favorite comedy ever, even above Mean Girls, which I think is hilarious.
Wow.
It's so
Braden's
funny,
two
dude.
favorite comedies of all time: The Nice Guys and Mean Girls.
What polar
He's got
opposite
guys and
sides of the
girls. Yeah,
that is kind of ironic,
but
isn't
no,
it?
this is yeah. This is my favorite Shane Black movie too. He hasn't honestly directed a ton. He's written more than he's directed. I know he directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer are in. I think in like the mid 2000s. I think that's a 2005 release. Um, which that movie has gotten a lot of praise, so I should probably watch it at some point. But he also directed a Predator movie that everyone said was bad.
Yeah, everyone hated that
So
movie.
this is definitely his, I think, most like well received work, and everyone still to this day clamors for a sequel to this movie. This movie has like such a big following on like social media and film Twitter circles, but it's deserved, dude. It's so funny. It's rewatchable. This was either my third or fourth time watching it for this episode, and I still loved it. Ryan Gosling is incredible in it. He gets so many chances to show off his comedic prowess, and then Russell Crowe, I would say, kind of takes a backseat to Gosling in a lot of ways, but he still carries this like veteran wiser presence about him, and still has his own moments where he can be funny. That I think they play off each other so well. It's one of the best buddy movies ever made, probably in my opinion,
Oh
and
yeah, I think it might be
everything
the
about it just
best. It's
it
so
might be.
good.
I'd have to like sit down and think about it, but it's definitely up there for sure. These two are just incredible together, and the writing is super fun. They get you on twists and turns. Yeah, one of the best movies of 2016.
Yeah, there are so many like just little plot threads that like tie together the whole movie. Like marriage is kind of a big one. Like multiple times throughout the movie, marriage gets brought up, but also
Hmm.
uh, the movie's called The Nice Guys. Being a bad person is like an ongoing theme
Yes.
throughout this movie, and I love that so much. There's like so much thematically that makes sense in this
Yeah.
movie, and it ties everything back together. Like there's not a single scene in this movie I would take out, and I that's just the sign of a great movie.
Yeah, I guess a little bit later I'll talk about there's one scene that I don't care for in this movie that it just I don't need it in here, but I still understand like a lot of people probably enjoy it. But going back to your point, yes, there's a lot of like themes and story threads that are tied together well. And the other thing that I think this movie does really well is tying in callbacks that are maybe like immediately funny or comedic moments in the first part and then twisting it to be a dramatic moment or a moment that matters to the story. Like there's a couple examples with the bad person scenario. Like the first time it gets brought up, it's like a funny moment. Ryan Gosling's like asking his daughter and she just answers yes immediately and he gets pissed and it's
Yeah,
like
she was like
it's
he
a
was like,
comedic standout.
don't take it easy on me just because you're my daughter. Am I a bad person? She's like, yes.
Yes.
He's like
Yeah.
he's like,
Like
okay, drive me
what are you
home.
even talking about?
He's having his 13-year-old
Um
daughter drive him around because he's always drunk.
He's always drunk. It's great. All the character development and setup is awesome. But then that moment gets brought back around where the daughter Holly is talking to Russell Crowe's character in the field and asking if he killed a man and if he's a bad person. And Russell Crowe lies to her and she says, "I knew you couldn't do that." And then like has a big impact on Russell Crowe's character. We see that in the movie.
Yeah, I almost feel
Um,
like
and
that's part of what makes Holly such a good character in this movie. Like she's a 13-year-old, and normally I find, especially in these kind of movies, I find like the child characters kind of annoying, but she adds so much to the story, and especially I know she's the daughter of Holland, but she adds so much to Jackson's character because like
yeah,
she is making Jackson like want to be a better person and want to like be that more human side of himself instead of just this monster. And he has a lot of human moments throughout too, like when he's we're kind of skipping around all over the place, but it's kind of in
we
the
are.
middle of the movie when he tells Holland the diner story and he's like, I just did it out of instinct. I got shot in the bicep and he like by the time Holland passes out, he's like, when I look back at it as the best day of my life, just for a moment, I
It was the
felt
best day of
useful.
my life because I felt useful. Yeah,
I'm like, oh, that is so
it's a
deep.
great
It's
moment.
one line, but it adds so much to his character.
Yeah, and that's kind of where this movie excels. But like even another example I think of is the thing with Marsh's character trying to get his daughter to be more like grammatically proper when he's always like, "Hey, don't say and stuff, just say the thing." And then at the end, like towards the end, around the start of the third act or getting into the third act, when his
He's calling
daughter's
him a
like,
bad
"People hate
detective.
you and stuff."
He's like,
Yeah,
don't
and
say
and
and
she and
stuff.
he's like,
I
"Don't
hate
say and
you.
stuff. I hate you." Yeah,
And he's
like
like,
that
yeah,
cuts
that.
deep, dude. That's he's like, "Yeah, that
Oh,
works."
yeah. It's like she wasn't saying that because she really hated him though, because like you can just tell from this girl's facial expressions like what she wanted. Because like eventually he's like they go off to do the thing and like she smiles. She was just trying to get her father to
She
be
smiles.
productive. So something
She's a great character.
oh, she's
I
so
love
good.
her.
Something Jackson says at the beginning of this movie, it's about marriage, and that comes
Hmm.
back to play. We don't get much of his backstory other than like the diner thing, and he used to be married. But there's a line
Hmm.
that like I don't know. I obviously can't relate to it because I'm not married, but like I got divorced parents and stuff. So like I kind of feel it every time he says it. He's like, marriage is buying a house for someone you hate.
Mm,
And I'm like, in a lot of cases it can be.
yeah,
Or like if you don't hate them before you do that, then like buying that house or like sealing the deal is what eventually leads to you hating that person.
yeah. Which is not always by any means, but often true, and that's pretty sad. But yeah, what a line! There's this movie's written really well. I love just the natural plot progression, and yes, at times it takes a like something big will happen in order to move the plot along, which is fairly standard of like an investigative like detective movie. Um, but everything feels earned in this movie. Like all of the information that they get is either really funny and works comedically, or is based in the story that they've set up, and so it feels satisfying that way, which is always something I appreciate it about it, and makes it rewatchable.
Yeah. So, I'm just gonna bring up a bunch of moments probably because there's so many good
I
ones.
want to
But
bring up just
so
moments too. Yeah.
there's so how this plot gets started is Mrs. Glenn hires Holland to find her niece, and we find out that her niece is dead.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's the woman you see at the beginning of the movie when this car literally goes crashing through this kid's house to his room,
House.
and
Yeah.
he just walks out and he's like, "What the heck?" And she's just like, "Oh, how do you like my car, big boy?" And then just dies. So that's Mrs. Glenn's niece. So we know she's dead. And she also
Hmm.
has a quote unquote missing husband. And it turns out he's just dead because Hope just looks over and sees his ashes, like
When
the
it,
urn.
dude, when the focus turns, like when it pans in and on the vase with the ashes, it's his name, and Ryan Gosling's just like, oh boy,
He asked her, "How
so
long has
good.
he been missing, Mrs. Glenn?" And she's like, "Since the funeral."
Since the funeral, he's
Oh, I
like, yeah,
love
that
it.
makes sense.
Yeah. Then I texted you about this moment, but when Ryan Gosling, he's like narrating over this moment, he's like, things have to be done right, and he's wrapping a cloth over his fist, and he just punches this window in the door, and
He slits his wrist.
starts bleeding out through his wrist, and he's immediately getting rushed to the hospital. Oh,
It's so funny because I love how, like, in that narration, he's like, but you know, people say it's easy. It's not easy. You have to know how to do everything right. Luckily, I'm good at it. And then he just cuts his wrist open and starts bleeding
he's
out.
like, oh,
Oh my
oh,
god.
that's a lot of blood.
Yeah, I love one of the he's talking to like one of the old people after he was like getting out of the hospital or whatever, who's like a nun or something, and she's like, "Are you trying to find God?" And he's like, "I'm trying to find Amelia." It's
Ryan Gosling,
so many
this his
deliveries.
delivery throughout this movie is so incredible. Like his comedic timing was on point. And
He's
yeah,
God.
so Russell Crowe's whole character is Jackson Hill. He's just a man that basically beats up bad people, and
Hmm.
he's like, "You won't find me in the yellow pages, but you ask around for me if you want something done."
Yeah.
And like we see him, he's beating up this pedophile at first, but then eventually he goes to beat up Holland, and he beats the crap
Hmm.
out of him. Well, he just punches him once or twice, and then Holland just like scarfs over the information, and then he's like, "I get it, I get it." He goes for the gun and the cookie jar, and Jackson just twists his arm. He's like, "Are you sure you get it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I get it." And then he tries to crawl for the gun. I'm like, "Dude, you just need to stop. You need to know when you've been beaten."
He keeps beating him up. It's such a great like first interaction for those characters. And then Holly like meets Healy after he's like done,
Yeah, I
and she's
like
like, "Are
that.
you a friend of my dad?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm a like we're work, you know, we know each other through work or whatever." And he's got the apple that he took from the house, and then Holly just offers him like juice, and he's like, "Yes, please. I haven't had one of these yoo-hoos." He's like, "I haven't had one of these in forever." Takes the whole crate.
Yeah, he just she offers him that, and he immediately throws the apple away. Yeah, I'll take a you. It was almost like some social commentary
Oh,
on our country.
yeah, for real.
Uh, it's great, and I love it's a really small thing, and like I don't know why I love it, but I do. I love that you see Holly in the background before she's even introduced as a character. I love that you see her outside in the background when Jackson is coming up to
Mm,
the house, and then like when he goes out, she's coming to the house. I'm like that just makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Like it
I
all.
mean, those are the small things as like filmmakers that really just make your world and your movie like feel. And that's a great thing to point out. I also love one of the first like places they go on their mission once they team up. Although we probably there's a lot of great moments in the birthday party scene too, where they kind of get together. Like I love Holly asking Healy if he can beat up her friend, and Ryan Gosling's like, he's like, Marsha's like, no, we're not doing that. Like, shut up. We're not beating up your friend.
Before that, when Jackson goes into the bathroom, which is where Holland is at the moment, and he's talking to him, he's like, "Look away,"
Oh my
because he's
god.
in the bathroom, and he turns around. He's like, there's a mirror here, right?
Yeah.
And
All of that scene, peak physical comedy from Ryan Gosling because
yeah,
every movement he makes is so funny.
then yeah, he's like reading a newspaper, and he's got his gun. It's like,
Yeah. And it
oh,
opens the door, and then he like the door like starts shutting on him again, and he has to like push it open so he can still see Jackson. So funny.
yeah. And then the back to the Holly's like, "How much would you charge to beat up my friend Janet?" And Jackson's just like, "How much you got?" And she's like, $30. And he's like, $30. Is she a big girl? And then
Yeah.
that's when Owen's like, "We're
Um,
not doing this."
we're not. Eat your apple pie. There's apple pie here. Eat it. Uh,
Then we go over to
yeah,
Amelia's
I
protest
love.
group.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up. I think that is such a funny scene. Like,
Oh,
no,
it's
she's
so good.
here. This is their protest group, and they're like trying to talk to him, and they're like, "We're dead, man. We can't talk to you." And they
Uh,
like keep trying to push them, and then the one guy's like, "Fuck you, man. We're dead."
and they're like, "Okay, how'd you die? Or what are you protesting?" And they're like, "The air. It's bad for the birds, man." And you're like, "The pollution. It killed
And they're
us."
like, "So
And Jackson's
they're
just
like,
looking
killed
down. He's
you."
like, the gas mask didn't save you."
And the gas man, they didn't help you, and they're like, "Shit, we should have thought of that." Yeah.
It's
Every
so
almost every scene in this movie has funny moments.
yeah, it's rare that like I don't think you can go 5 minutes without a funny moment in this movie.
Yeah. I love one of my favorite jokes in the whole thing is again, we're just skipping around, but towards the towards the end, not like quite at the end, but when they're talking to Amelia and she's like giving them all the information about stuff her mom has done, and she's like they're finding out she had all these people killed, and then Ryan Gosling's like, so it's like Jack the Ripper and then your mom, basically.
I know that was great. Yes, I love that one.
So funny. It's so funny.
And the pause between like the it's Jack the Ripper and your mom, and there's a pause, and he's like, basically.
Basically. Oh man, the comedic timing's so good.
When they get to the party and Holly just gets out
Hmm.
and she's like, "Dad, there are like whores here and stuff," and he's like, "How many times do I have to tell you? Don't say and stuff. Just say there are whores here." And then
Yeah.
the like immediate callback, like the scene after that. Well, I guess it's still technically during the
Mhm.
same scene, but inside the party, Holly's just watching this porn flick with this porn star, and this porn star is
As
in
you
the
do.
film. Yeah. She says something about I just walk in and they're like doing anal and stuff, and Holly's like, don't say and stuff, just say they're doing anal.
They're doing anal. Yeah. Great. And I love when Holly like they open up the trunk and she's in there and she's like, I know you're gonna be mad, but I'm already here, so you might as well let me come with you. And Gosling just closes the trunk and tries to give the keys to the valet.
And
And
he's
the
like, I
valet's
can't
like,
take your
I
car
can't
like
take
that.
your car like that.
Yeah, then when they drive, or well, they don't drive off with her, but she gets in the car with that one bad dude later on, and like he tries to
Hmm.
shoot Amelia, and she slams the door in his hand, and she bolts it. But I guess the valet didn't see her bolted out the car; she just saw her get in the car. So she's like, "Yo, that girl that was in your trunk, she was in that car."
Yeah.
And that's like the moments you see where Holland, like deep down, he is really a good father. Like he cares so much about
Yeah,
Holly.
he cares about his kid. And then there's a couple moments like that throughout it that I like where even though he is like he doesn't really have his life together, he drinks all the
And
time.
you understand
Uh
why though, because it reveals like what happened to his wife. And it's because of
his
his
wife,
nose
yeah.
thing, which just bringing back the nose thing, like I thought it was going to be a one-off joke the first time I saw this movie when he's like, "Oh, you're a detective that can't smell. This just keeps getting better."
That's funny, yeah.
And Holland's like,
But
"Hey," but then yeah, it turns out there was a gas leak at their old house and it burned down, but he could never smell it because he can't smell, and his wife died in the fire. I'm like, that is
yeah, dude,
tragic.
it's tough.
It's like, oh, it's like it's
Yeah,
such
I
a
guess.
funny movie, but there's like so much serious stuff in there too. Like a lot of the story
Mhm.
feels very personal, even though it's kind of over the top at times and silly, or not even over the top. A lot
Yeah,
of the humor is kind of subtle at times, but no,
it's
there's all
subtle and
kind
like,
there's different brands of humor in this movie, so I feel like it's just a movie for
yeah,
kind of everyone.
I agree with that. The one scene in this that I brought up that I guess I can talk about now that I don't know how you feel, but I don't like the tripping out scene in the car with like the bee and everything.
Oh,
That's the
you
one,
don't?
like, I don't like it. It's just, I don't know. That's the one point for me where it just goes like, I don't know if it's too far, but it's just like I don't need that in there. Like once the bee starts talking to them and everything, I'm like, okay, it. I don't know. It just feels out of place to me. But there is a variety of humor in this, and I understand like it probably is funny for a lot of people. But when I rewatched it today, I was like, oh, it's this scene again.
I don't know. I like that scene personally. I think it's funny because
That's
he's just
fair.
dreaming, but he's
Yeah,
yeah, it's like he's dreaming about first of all, he dreams that Jackson has an ankle gun and that will come back into play
ankle
at the
gun,
end of the
which
movie.
that callback is fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and that he has a self-driving car. And Jackson's just like, just take your hands off the wheel, man. And he takes his hands off the wheel
hmm
and he's like, "Whoa, I didn't know that it could do that." And he's like, "Yeah, man. All cars can do that." And I guess the bee thing is a little less funny than that. Once the bee comes in, it is kind of a little too much, but I thought that part was hilarious. But the bee when he's
Yeah,
like,
I
I like the callback to the pollution thing. That's what I like about the bee thing. He's like, yeah, man, this pollution is awful. All the bees are riding around in cars these days.
yeah, it's well done. Just for me, it's like too much, and I could have done without it. But I do think they make good use of it. If they're going to do it.
I think
But
if
yeah,
you're paying
that's
enough
my
attention in the movie, I think you can immediately tell that he's dreaming before you even see the bee by the way Jackson is talking, because he's talking like so much more like he does not sound like the Mr. Hilly we've known throughout this film. He sounds way more laid back, way more stoner like, and
Just
not
take your
nearly
hand
as
off the
serious.
wheel, man. Just take your hand off the wheel. Yeah. It's
Ugh.
it's a well done scene for sure. It's just it's not my favorite. Um we also haven't talked about Nixon yet, which I know is like one of the staples of this movie comedically.
Oh, it's one of the funniest things because Hilly is telling Holland a, a story about Nixon. He's like, yeah, I had this friend on the Nixon project, and like there was this really bad wreck. They pull over, Nixon goes up to him. He's like, everything's gonna be all right. Immediately, the guy dies, and then Holland's like, I don't get it, and he's like, look at it from that guy's perspective, right? And he's like, okay, so you're telling me there's two different ways to look at things? He's like, yeah. He's like, okay, what was
You
the
could have
point of
just said that.
yeah, you take me on this 10-minute adventure, and then the point is just there's two different ways to look at things. You could just told me that. He's like, oh, you didn't like the story? He's like, that would suck.
Yeah. And then it comes back at the end when Ryan Gosling falls into this pool, which first of all, that shot is just a great image because the other like bad guy falls with him and he just splatters in blood on the side of the pool. But
Yes.
Gosling into the pool and lives. And as Gosling's like falling into the pool and it's like he could die, like he could drown, he sees Richard fucking Nixon in the pool, and that's his sign of like, oh hell no, I ain't gonna die, and he swims back up. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's great. He's like, Nixon! No!
Yeah, that was probably the joke that my dad laughed at the hardest when I showed this movie to him,
Oh,
like last
dude.
year.
It's so
He
good.
he loved the
It's
Nixon joke.
it's probably my favorite joke in the movie still, but a close second is
hmm
when Holly's like, how much would you charge to beat up my friend Janet?
Yeah.
Oh, but no,
Uh.
the falling thing. We'll get to that joke in a minute, but there's another falling joke earlier in the movie, so there's just a bunch of jokes that like kind of tie back to each other too, which I appreciate. They're like completely different jokes, but like thematically they're similar. So
mhm.
at the party when Holland's like, "Yeah, I can act," and he's talking to the Pocahontas chick, and he's like, "Shoot
Yeah,
me," and she's like, "Bang,
shoot me.
bang," and then he falls down,
He,
and
he
and
rolls down the hill.
he's like, "Oh crap!" And that's the first time he sees Amelia. He doesn't know it's Amelia yet because he's drunk out of his mind.
Hmm.
He's like, "Oh, I'm not here to hurt you. No, I'm just looking for my gun." Then he finds
Yeah,
the
and then he ends up
director's dead
finding
body.
Sid Shattuck.
Yeah, Sid
Yeah,
Shattuck. He
and
just falls on his
it's
dead
funny
body.
because Russell Crowe's been doing like actual work like this whole time and has not been drinking and has been like on his game. And then Ryan Gosling gets absolutely hammered, falls off like out of the party, rolls down the hill, and finds like the biggest piece of information that either of them found at the party. And Russell Crowe's got to be like, what the heck?
And when Russell Crowe's like, he hears Jackson when he's near, and he's like, I love how Ryan Gosling's character can't get the words out because he's so like grotesque and he's disgusted by this revelation he's found. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
Jackson.
Yeah.
So he just looks down. He's
Oh
like,
man, those
what are you
two,
doing down there? Did he fall?
those
And
two
he's
are
like,
so good together.
yeah, I was wet from the pool. And he's like, you were in the pool? Why were you in the pool? And he's like, I had to question the
I had to
mermaids.
question the mermaids.
What were you doing while I was working?
Yeah,
Uh, then they throw Sad Chittick's
just
dead
elite
body,
chemistry.
or Sid Chaddick's dead body over the fence onto
Yeah.
like this dinner table that a family or a group of friends or whatever they may be is having, and they all scream. And
They're like,
Jackson and
run.
Holland just like kind of stare at each other for a moment, and Jackson's like, run.
Oh,
Oh,
it's so good. That was one of my favorite jokes too. I busted out laughing at that.
oh,
Even
it's
though I've
so
seen it
great.
before, I always forget it until I see them. I see them throw it over the fence, and I'm like, oh yeah, something bad's about to happen.
It's so good. Yeah, and Holly, the man that we were talking about earlier, the bad guy that like the valet thought he drove off with her, but she was actually with Amelia, and they were running away from this dude.
Hmm.
That dude just straight up gets hit by a van, and he's in bad shape. And Amelia just takes off, but
Yeah,
Holly's like, "No, we have to help him." And I'm amazed that this little girl is such a good person, given what her dad is.
yeah.
But she's
But
like,
I
"No,
mean,
she,
it makes sense because her dad's not a bad person necessarily, and like her
yeah,
mom seems to have been a like really kind person from everything that we know. But it is cool that she's like this moral compass for them.
yeah." And then Jackson chokes that guy out with a cloth over his hand, which I like little details like that. Like Jackson would be smart enough to do that. Like he's not gonna get his fingerprints all over this guy.
Hmm.
And I like how they never call attention to any of that. They just show it and you're gonna catch it or you're not.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
here's a so there's a certain name we can't say uh
Oh yeah.
because it may get demonetized or the video may not get pushed if we do. So we're not gonna say it, but a certain Fuhrer that was in World War II, we're just gonna call him the Riddler. But cops like keeping them there, and Holland's like, "Can I see my daughter?" And he's like, "No, I'm just following orders, man. You got to stay here." He's like, "You know who else was just following orders? The Riddler." And he's got this
The
satisfied look on
Riddler.
his face. He's like, "Yeah,
He's
yeah, I
like,
told that
I
guy."
ate that up. I did that. Yeah, I got him. They make like multiple mentions of the Riddler in this movie, and it's
Yeah,
like funny every time. I don't know.
it's pretty. Yeah, it's utilized really well. Like sometimes those jokes toward, Riddler jokes, they're kind of cheap, but here they feel pretty
Hmm.
earned.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, every time I watch this movie, I forget that Matt Bomer is in it at the end.
yeah,
Like
I forget.
every single
So
time I watch it.
when I was watching at the beginning and like in the opening credits, his name comes up. I'm like, oh yeah, Matt Bomer's in this movie. I totally forgot. He's Johnny Boy.
Yeah, I didn't see him. Like sometimes I'm not paying attention to the opening credits, and then he shows up, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Matt Bomer.
Well,
Especially because I started
he's like
watching a
billed
little bit
so
of
high because it's like I want to say he's like fourth build, but I mean I guess Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe
probably.
are most of this movie because it's like Ryan Gosling,
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, Kim Bassinger, and Kim Bassinger isn't even in a lot of the movie. Then Matt Bomer. I'm like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
Matt Bomer's in this movie.
Yeah.
No, my
Especially
favorite is
because I started. Go ahead.
I was gonna say my favorite Matt Bomer scene is when he's at the Gosling's house and then Gosling and Crow get back and they're like, "Hey, did you hear that noise?" And Matt Bomer's just like going to the car to get the machine gun out of his trunk. He's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah, it
I
was
threw that
me.
little girl out
Threw
the
the girl
window."
out the window. Yeah, he's great. I just started watching a little bit of White Collar, which was like I think his big break recently on TV. He looks so young in that movie or in that show compared to
Well, I
like some of
bet.
the like Doom Patrol and later stuff that I know him for because that show started in like '05, I think.
Yeah, I remember my
Um,
dad always watched that when I was growing up, and I never really watched it. I did watch Burn Notice, which was another show like that, but yeah, I
yeah,
never got into White Collar.
it's fun. Like I'm not like binging it or anything, but sometimes I'll throw on an episode and the two leads have good chemistry. Bomer's good in it. But yeah, every time I watch this movie and he shows up, I'm like, oh my god, it's Matt Bomer.
Yeah, back to that scene that we were kind of mentioning earlier, though. We mentioned a different part of it where you were talking about the people hate you and stuff. Just don't say and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I hate you. But in that same scene, Holly's like, "You are the worst detective ever," and he's like, "I'm the
Mhm.
worst detective ever," and she's like, "Yeah, did you not hear me?" And he just kind of pauses and he looks over. He's like, "Got a sweet ad though."
Yeah, I love. He's like, I'm the worst in the world, and she's like, yeah, yes, you are. Like you heard me,
Just the I got a
but
sweet ad though. Like he always
anytime,
finds a way to make himself feel better about himself.
yeah, it's great. Uh,
Then when they go to the
I
hotel,
love the way, yeah.
when they go to the hotel and they're what are the just the front desk person? I don't know what their title is, but they're just questioning him and the dude's like they had their balls removed. What's that called? And Russell Crowe's like marriage.
Yeah, and then in going up the elevator, Ryan Gosling's like, it's called Munich, and Russell Crowe's like, that's a city in Germany,
Yeah,
and he's
city
like,
in Germany.
Ryan Gosling's like, oh, and then they get up to the penthouse and they see all the people getting murdered, and the elevator closes and they're going back down, and they're like, oh boy, do we want to do this? Really funny.
Yeah. Oh, and when they're back at the house, after Matt Bomer's already got the machine gun out and he's just spraying fire, and Ryan Gosling
Hmm.
eventually gets in the house. He's like, "Yo, cover me," and Russell Crowe's covering him. And man, that dude, he's such a good shot with a pistol. Like he's almost more accurate with that pistol than Matt Bomer is with the machine gun.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this is crazy. But he goes in and he gets everyone into the closet, and then Holly's like, "Oh, Dad, wait!" And it's because she pulled out the gun from the cookie jar earlier, and she's just waving the gun in his
Hmm.
face. He's like, "Jesus!"
Yeah, man. So many good moments in this movie. Like too many to count. Every time I rewatch it, I remember something or I like see something different in a new light, and it's great. It's so rewatchable.
Yeah. Then the hotel room. I guess this is kind of the last scene we haven't really talked about yet. We talked about the
Hmm.
ankle gun callback. There's an ankle gun callback, and it's just Ryan Gosling's
Yep.
character is on the ground next to Russell Crowe, and he like lifts up his pant leg, and he's like, "Where's the gun?" And Jackson just looks
Where's the
down at him
gun?
funny. He's like, "What gun?" It's like the
Wait,
ankle gun,
what?
dude, the fucking ankle gun. He's like, "Oh, did I dream that?" He's like, "Yeah."
Did I dream that?
He's like, "No, wait." He's like, "Oh yeah, I did dream that." Then
I love how he like realizes. He's like, yeah, that was my bad.
yeah. Then Holly comes in with the like cart and she throws the coffee on the chick and she's like, "Why did you just throw cold coffee on me?" And she's like, I got into the
I grabbed it in
hallway.
the
I thought
hall.
it
I
was
thought it was
hot."
hot.
And Holland
Yeah.
just being like the most supportive dad ever in the worst situation is like, "I like where your head's at, sweetheart. That could have really worked."
Yeah. So good.
Then yeah, then we get Holland jumping off the roof and that dude dying and then the Nixon joke, which is great. And then he gets out of the pool and he finds Jackson and he's like, "I told you to go to the roof. How do you get down here? Did you fall?"
Did
And
you
Owen's
fall?
like, "Yeah."
Yes.
Then I guess the end of the movie, Mr. Hilly is about to kill Johnny Boy, and Holly's like, "If you kill this
Yep.
man, I will never speak to you again."
I won't talk to you.
And he
Hmm.
just looks down at him. He's like, "You owe your life to a 13-year-old girl." I'm like, I love that so much. It's
He
so good.
does. Yeah, I love the impact that Holly has on both Healy and Howard. It's great.
Yeah. I I feel like ever since I've become an uncle, I kind of like I've been an uncle since I saw this movie, but I'm an uncle to three kids now instead of just one or two. But I get that
Hmm.
perspective so much more than I would have before I was one because like even if they're not your kids, kids can have such an impact on you and the way you view things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not an uncle yet, but hopefully, will be one day. And but I agree, just being around like kids that are maybe other family, like family friends or whatever, it definitely has an impact on you and can make a difference. Dude, I'm so upset this movie never got a sequel. It, it should have.
Yeah, it's crazy that this hasn't gotten a sequel. It's so good. It's like I
It's
said,
so good,
maybe
and
the
now it's
best
to the point
comedy
where
I've
like,
ever seen, and it's got so much more than just comedy in it. It's got a real story. It's got
yeah,
like the action isn't like it's not the most action centric action comedy you'll see, but that's not a bad thing because the story is actually good.
the story is good. The twists and turns are fun. Definitely one of my more favorite comedies. And now it's getting to the point where like, I mean, this movie has such a like following and like so many people love it, but I don't know if a sequel will ever happen, especially because Russell Crowe's just getting older at this point. Um,
Yeah, if it's
but
gonna
I'd
happen,
still love
you
to
need
see
to
it
do it
happen.
soon. Because I'm sure Russell Crowe would be
But
down to come back for one at this point in his career. Who knows how long he'll. You never know with actors because some of them will just act until like they literally can't
they
anymore, and
die.
some might just walk
Yeah.
away. You know.
Daniel Day Lewis, come back, please. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's always interesting. But I would love to see a sequel to this. But if we don't get it, at least we have this movie. Uh,
Yeah,
it won't go away.
this movie I've seen multiple times and still makes me laugh like I'm a maniac.
It's so good.
Even just discussing it like we were today, like it made us laugh. Like it's just that good.
Yeah,
And it's like
it's
it's
so
written
much
so
fun to discuss.
cleverly too.
Bring back the jokes.
Oh, yep. Give us the nice guys too. That's what we're saying.
Love this movie. It gets better for me pretty much every time I watch it too. We
Yeah,
need it,
same.
dude. We need nice guys too. The nicer guy.
The nicer guys, yes. Oh, you could make such a good trilogy. You could have the nice guys, the nicer guys, then the nicest guys.
The nicest guys. Yeah, man. Put us in charge of the studios, man. We'll give the people what they want.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, we can get Ryan Gosling back. I mean, whatever studio
He would
makes the movie is gonna have to
he
pay him a
would be
decent
so
amount, but
down.
yeah, he would be down. I know he'd be down.
He,
You can just tell, like, with his personality type, he'd be down.
yeah.
And Russell Crowe
So
too. Russell Crowe
yeah,
seems pretty laid back.
he does seem super chill, even though he's an Oscar winner and multi-time nominee. He just looks like a fun guy to hang
I
out
mean,
with,
he
have a
did the
beer
Pope's
with. I don't know.
Exorcist. He'll do the nice guys too. Come on.
Yeah. Never saw that movie. Probably never will. But
I never
I would
saw
watch
it,
The Nice
but
Guys too.
I might see it one day. Who knows? It took me forever to watch the original
Mm,
Exorcist.
so good, dude. Oh my god. Don't get me started on The Exorcist. I love that movie.
Hey, we talked about it on the show not that long ago
We did talk about it on the
for its
show.
40th
Go
year
go check it out.
anniversary or 50th anniversary. Oh my
Which
lord.
is crazy. 50th, bro.
Yeah, that's insane. Probably the
Insane.
oldest movie we talked about on this podcast, but one of the best
I think so, yeah.
so far anyway. Well,
Uh,
I guess what
yeah.
next time we'll probably be back with Mad Max Fury Road since Furiosa will be the week after.
Yeah, I'm down to do that. We have trivia waiting in the wings whenever the schedules line up
Oh
for
yes, we do.
Degree Gorilla Showdown.
Whenever I can get you and Connor
But
at the same time. That hasn't worked out recently.
we'll yeah, no, but we'll get that done at some point. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Furiosa. I think it'll be good. Fury Road's awesome, so it'd be cool to rewatch that and take a look back at it. And yeah, good year for the movies. 2024 has been.
For sure. We're just now entering the summer movie season. And I thought Fall Guy was
Yeah,
a good opener for that, to be honest.
me too. Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's it. We're gonna go
All
back into
right. That
hibernation
is
now.
us. See ya.